We're beginning to move up the price range here, but 99designs.com is definitely a site you need to be aware of if you're a self-published independent author. If you've watched the previous videos in this series, you'll know that I used a ready-made template that probably cost maybe between $60 to $100, a series of templates that I purchased to make these covers. And those covers did very well for me. I think they're decent quality. They certainly helped me to sell the books when they first launched, and I was very, very happy with those. But what I wanted to get away from with those covers, rightly or wrongly, was the dollars. I didn't want it to appear that it was a get rich quick or you would make money as a result of using these books. So what I decided to do is get some more corporate covers done. Now actually I think that turned out to be a mistake, because I sold fewer books when I got the more formal corporate covers done. They used to sell much better with these covers. But that's just a lesson that you learn as you go along. So these were the templated versions, and these were the 99 Designs versions. Now the dollar to pound conversions are always difficult. I got these done a couple of years ago. So off the top of my head, it was something like $200 and I paid £160. Now because of the way I structured the job, I paid £160 to get all of those covers done. So I asked for a basic templated design, but I asked for it in multiple titles. So in terms of design, the designer had to do the work once, but they just changed the titles. And I wanted the source files, that is the editable files, the PSD files, because I always pay for those, because then I could change the titles and I could add as many books as I wanted to that series. So the aim was they all need to look like they're part of a series, which they do. Obviously the colours need to be different so that they identify differently, and I needed the editable files so that I could, if I wanted to, I could come up with 100 books in that series and just keep changing the covers and the title every time, and I would be good to go with that. So those were the covers that I ended up paying for, or virtually the covers that I ended up paying for on 99designs.com, and they actually worked very well for me. And having got those flat covers, I then used mycovermaker.com, which I'll show you in a later video, to create 3D versions of the covers in all sorts of different 3D formats so that they look really good. And I've got lots of different options as a result of one job. So I pay £160 for the job, but I got many, many permutations and options as a result of that one 99designs.com job. Let's go to the 99designs.com site now, and I'll talk you through how it works, and you'll get a real sense for why this is something that needs to be on your radar if you're a self-published author. This is the job that I got done on 99designs.com, and actually look, you can see it was 229 euros, not dollars. I don't know why I paid in euros, so I don't know what that is now. It's about 160, 170 pounds, something like that. That's what it cost me at the time with the exchange rate. When I got it done, it felt like 160. So what I did is I wanted a design doing. So in 99designs.com, you have to write a brief. So there is my brief for this design. This is the brief where I put the audience and the content details and the references, and you'll see I wanted no get rich quick graphics, so I showed them the old graphics that I got and said I don't want that. I don't want dollars and any kind of get rich implication with this. I want it to be corporate, and I want it to have that kind of corporate credibility. That's rightly or wrongly what I went for at the time. So that was my description. Now what happens with 99designs.com, and this is why it's so interesting, is you then get designers who pitch for the job. You don't pay anything at all until you get to look at all these pitches. And let me just run through these. If I just go through, let's have a look, all designs. Let's go through all designs here. I got 110 pitches for that job. 110 pitches. Okay. And as you'll see, some of these have been deleted now, so it's quite an old account. But you'll get a feel for what people were doing. Now, it's funny, it was when you start to get some designs in, and I started to give feedback on those and start to say, oh yeah, you know, I quite like that, or no, that's not quite working for me. You tend to get lots of different designs coming in. Now, maybe we should go to the archive designs, actually, because many of these have been deleted now, and many of them have been archived. So let's just take a look at some of the archive designs where you can barely see them there. But hopefully you get a feel for, you see this, if we go through these, get a feel for the kind of designs we were getting on that brief. Some of them were pretty horrible, but you can see that they all got the brief. It was all corporate. Some of them were not very nice. That person had completely ignored what I'd said about the money, about the dollars, and didn't want that at all. This was more corporate look. So you get the feel of what we were doing there. And what happens then is, as those designs come in, you can rate them. You say what you like, what you don't like, and as you express preferences, you get more of what you like and less of what you don't like. You give the contractors an idea of what you're after. Now, what I did is I tried to put people out of their misery as soon as possible. That's the first thing. If I don't like it, I just say I don't like it. Just, you have to be quite ruthless. There's no need to get personal about it, but just say, just say I don't want this. You're not going to go from it. You're not going to go for it. So the next thing that I did, and again, you need to have an email marketing list for this, is I set up a poll. When I tied it down to however many it was, a group of favourites, I then created a poll in 99designs, and my favourite designs I then sent out to my people on my list and on social media, and said, what do you think? Which do you think are the best ones? And as you can see here, people have rated all of the designs and given me comments. Patronising, boring office clip art, cheesy. I like the bottom one in teal. I'd like the picture. I'd like it better if the picture was centered. So if you ask for feedback, you're going to get it. And look, that was an interesting one. Folded arms, negative reaction, because it's a closed image. That's very, very interesting. So it kind of stops you making faux pas. Sometimes you can't see what's in front of you, and although the feedback, if you followed all the feedback, you go mad. You just have to take the key points from the feedback. If you listen to everybody, you just go mad. You'd never get a cover. So try and take what you can from the feedback, but overall, you've got to make the final decisions. You've got to make the final decisions. So do look at the comments, take the best of them, ignore the worst of them, but just use it for guidance. So a lot of these covers have gone now, but I did find it very useful. There was all these loads and loads of feedback in there. People have got really involved with the poll. And the great thing about having a poll on there is that you could get audience feedback straight away. Now, I was in I think it was Val McDermott. I was in a talk of hers. Was it Val McDermott? I think it was. But it was a very well-known best-selling author. It might have been somebody else, actually. And they were given an example of how they'd got a cover and it had gone through the whole traditional process, and it was only right at the last minute, before the thing actually got printed in its thousands, did somebody realise it was a really big error on the cover. And so sometimes it really helps to have lots of pairs of eyes over your covers, just in case you've made a terrible mistake. And it's very easy to make terrible mistakes like that. So I would recommend a poll, and that's one of the things I love about 99designs.com. And then basically you go through that process. You go through the I don't like this, I do like this. You go through the poll process if you've got an audience that you can send to. And then you pick a winning designer. And when you pick a winning designer, that designer, he or she then goes to produce those final files to your specification. And as you can see here, I got all those what are called PSD files, which are editable files, which means having paid that designer for that job, I can then make tweaks and changes to the titles because I've got those very basic Photoshop skills to allow me to do this. Now, if you don't have those Photoshop skills, you are going to have to and fro with the designer until it's absolutely what you want, and then you can pay for the job. But the great thing about this is you don't pay for the job until you're completely happy. And if you're not completely happy, you can get all those designs and you can walk away and say, do you know what? It's not really what I'm after. So that's the advantage of 99designs.com. Now, here's an interesting thing. Have I used it again? I haven't. I've used it once. I was happy with the experience. I've not tried it for fiction, but I don't know whether I would try it for fiction. It worked well for non-fiction. It did the job for me. I needed 6 covers. But would I use it again? Yes, I would, in terms of trust, in terms of the service. But actually, I've found other ways of getting covers done that I prefer. So what I prefer to do is I prefer bespoke covers. I prefer to pay £300, £400 a time. By saying prefer, I don't prefer the money. I don't prefer the financial outlay. But actually, I generally get exactly what I want when I pay for bespoke covers. It's like all things. You get what you pay for. But if you're on a budget and you want to get a crowd of maybe hundreds of designers working on your book cover, this is a pretty good option. I've had no bad experience with it. I was very happy with my experience. It's just not the course that I've chosen to get my covers. Would I use it again? Absolutely. In a blink of an eye, I would use 99 Designs again. There's no problem with it at all. It's really important though that you have it on your radar, because it's just one of the many, many options that are available to you as a self-published author. And depending on your budget, it may be the best one for you to use.